What if the voice that is dismantling your life isn't an echo from the outside world, but a whisper from within? What if the true enemy isn't your circumstance, your past, or the chorus of doubters, but the thoughts you allow to crawl into the soil of your mind and take root? You feel tired, overwhelmed, unmotivated. But have you ever stopped to ask, why? Why do you continue to doubt yourself, even when you know you are capable of more? Why do your own thoughts tear you down instead of building you up? This is more than just overthinking. It is a war of perception, a silent battle most people are losing simply because they don't realize they are fighting. The truth is, negative thinking doesn't just weigh on your mood. It dissolves your purpose, erodes your discipline, and paralyzes your will. But what if there existed a set of ancient laws, ruthless, tested, and forged in the fires of Stoic philosophy, that could silence this inner chaos and rebuild your mind into something unshakable? Stay with me, because today we are not sugarcoating the truth. We are cutting directly to it, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. If you are ready to stop letting fear and doubt control your narrative and start building a life of clarity, strength, and self-mastery, then subscribe and let us begin the work of claiming the person you were meant to become. Law 1. Attack the root, not the symptom. Most people navigate the world from inside a noisy mind, never realizing the volume is turned all the way up. Their thoughts are a scattered field of little fires, anxious worries, restless concerns, sharp bursts of self-doubt. And they spend all their energy putting them out, one by one. But here is the problem. No matter how many times you stomp them out, they always return. Why? Because you are treating symptoms, not the source. You are busy calming the noise, but you are not asking where it comes from. Stoicism teaches a profound truth. The mind is not a random storm. It is a system of patterns, and when we fail to examine those patterns, we suffer the same mental assaults over and over again. This is where real self-mastery begins, not by reacting, but by investigating. It means getting brutally honest about what lies beneath the thought, the fear, the story, the wound. Let's say your mind keeps whispering, "You're falling behind." The common reaction is to numb it, by scrolling, eating, or rushing into busy work. But the Stoic approach is to breathe and dig deeper. Am I truly behind? Or am I comparing myself to someone who doesn't live my life? Am I tying my self-worth to a timeline that someone else created? These aren't just thoughts, they are roots. And if you don't pull them, they will grow back stronger. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Your reaction is not just an emotion, it is a habit, and every habit grows from a root. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That line is devastating because it's true. Most of our suffering comes not from the world, but from the parts of ourselves we refuse to look at. That fear of judgment you carry? That's not a personality trait. That's a root. It likely started years ago, perhaps in a moment from childhood when you learned that just being yourself wasn't safe. And now, every decision you make, what you say, what you wear, what you hide, is shaped by it. The Stoic does not ignore this. They do not cover it with hollow positivity. They confront it, not because they are fearless, but because they know that fear left in the dark only grows stronger. Every negative thought is a signal flare. It demands your attention, not so you will panic, but so you will investigate. Once you understand where a thought is coming from, you gain power over it. You can challenge it. You can talk back to it. you can change the behavior that feeds it. Think of it this way. If you walk into your home and find water on the floor, do you just mop it up every single day? Or do you find the leak and fix it? This law is about fixing the leak, about facing the one thing you have been avoiding. And here is the beautiful part. When you stop swatting at symptoms and start cutting the root, everything changes. Your anxiety no longer owns you. Your doubt no longer paralyzes you. Your sadness doesn't spiral into shame. Why? Because you have seen where it lives. And once you see the root, it loses its power. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." He wasn't denying that pain is real. He was saying that most of our suffering is a loop we create by avoiding the true source. Cutting the root breaks the loop. Let's make this real. The next time you feel overwhelmed, instead of saying, "I can't handle this," ask yourself, what specifically am I afraid of? Are you afraid of disappointing someone? Of failing in public? Of wasting your time? Write it down. Then, go one level deeper. Why does that outcome hold so much power over you? What core belief about yourself is feeding this fear? That is where the root lives. And once you name it, you can decide if that belief still belongs to you, or if it is finally time to let it go. This process is rarely comfortable. Facing the truth never is. But discomfort is not your enemy. It is your guide. The resistance you feel when you dig deeper, that is the edge where your freedom begins. This isn't just about fixing problems. It is about reclaiming the power to respond rather than react, to choose clarity over confusion, and to act even when your mind wants to run. You don't need more distractions. You need precision. You need to look your fear in the face and say, "I see you. I know where you came from, but you no longer drive." That is Stoicism. That is self-leadership. And when you live by cutting the root instead of trimming the leaves, you are no longer at the mercy of your thoughts. You are in command. Law 2. Control the frame, or be controlled by it. Life will at times deliver a blow that stops you in your tracks. A rejection, a plan that falls apart, a person you trusted walking away. Instantly your mind rushes in to explain what just happened. But here is the critical truth. How you explain it to yourself is everything. Your brain doesn't just record the event, it assigns it a meaning. And that meaning, that story, becomes the architecture of your reality. The Stoics understood that while pain is inevitable, suffering is a choice. Suffering is the gap between what happens to you and the story you tell yourself about what happened. Imagine you lose your job. One person spirals, framing the event as a reflection of their worth. "I failed. I am not good enough. I will never recover." But another person, facing the exact same loss, chooses a different frame. This is not an ending. It is a redirection. This is the catalyst I needed to pursue a path with genuine purpose. Same event, different frame. And that frame changes everything. Epictetus reminded us, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." He wasn't suggesting we ignore pain. He was reminding us that the story we attach to a moment holds more power than the moment itself. Have you ever noticed how some people seem unshaken by chaos? It's not that they don't feel the impact, it's that they have trained their minds to reframe events faster. When something goes wrong, they don't collapse into despair. They pause, they pivot, and they ask better questions. This is what Stoicism teaches. Not to pretend life doesn't hurt, but to choose a response that strengthens you instead of breaking you. So the next time life hits you with the unexpected, try this. Instead of thinking, "This isn't fair," ask, "What can I learn here?" Instead of, I can't handle this, ask, what part of me is being tested and strengthened right now? The moment you ask a stronger question, you begin to build a stronger mind. As Carl Jung put it all depends on how we look at things and not how they are in themselves. We believe we are seeing the world objectively, but we are almost always seeing it through the lens of old wounds, fears, and expectations. Your perception becomes your prison or your power. If your inner voice constantly frames events as personal attacks, failures, or proof of your inadequacy, then of course life will feel heavy. But when you train that voice to say, this is a challenge, this is part of the process, or even, this is training, then you step into ownership. You begin to control the frame instead of being controlled by it. Most people don't do this. They hand over the pen and let fear or shame write the script. But you are here because you want sovereignty. You want to train your mind not just to survive difficulty, but to lead through it. That begins the moment your inner dialogue starts by consciously choosing a better story. Let's make it practical. Someone criticizes your work. Your instinct might be to frame it as, they don't respect me, I'm not good enough. Step back. Control the frame. This is feedback, not a verdict. I am being sharpened. You are ghosted by someone you care about. The mind wants to spiral. I must be unlovable. Catch it and flip it. This says more about their capacity than my worth. The facts do not change, but the emotional weight does. You lighten the load by choosing a frame of growth, not defeat. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Framing is the act of reminding yourself that no matter what happens out there, you still control what happens in here. This is not fake positivity. This is strategic clarity. Because once you realize that your story determines your strength, you stop playing the victim and start shaping your reality. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, how can I use this? That single shift can change your entire direction. The world is going to test you. That is a guarantee. The question is, will you let every setback define you? Or will you learn how to define the setback? Will you let life control your frame? Or will you take the frame into your own hands and bend it toward meaning, discipline, and resilience? Law 3. Build a mind that is a fortress, not a doorway. Few people realize just how porous their minds have become. They wake up and immediately reach for their phone, scrolling, reacting, absorbing. Opinions, criticisms, bad news, endless reminders of what they are not. They are without conscious consent, allowing the outside world to walk straight into the chambers of their mind and rearrange the furniture. Then they wonder why they feel drained, anxious, and scattered. Here's the truth. Your mind was not meant to be a public square, with every door and window thrown open. It was meant to be a fortress. Stoicism teaches that what you allow to enter your mind determines the quality of your life. If you do not control the gates, something or someone else will. If you owned a castle, would you let just anyone wander in, shout insults, and break your windows? Of course not. Yet that is precisely what we do with our thoughts. A dismissive comment from a stranger becomes an all-day obsession. One bad outcome sends us spiraling into worst-case scenarios. We don't question the thought. We offer it a seat at the table. This is why the ideal of a fortress mind is so vital. The world is full of noise, and all of it is trying to influence you. Advertising, social media, the expectations of others, your own inner critic, they all want entry. If your mental walls are weak, they will get in. But when your mind becomes a fortress, you begin to filter. You no longer believe every negative thought just because it appears. You no longer accept every opinion just because it is loud. You shift from being reactive to being selective. That is where your power begins. As Carl Jung wrote, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." That awakening happens the moment you realize you do not have to accept every thought. You have the right to question it. You have the right to decide if it serves you. You have the right to respond instead of merely reacting. But that only happens when you build the walls, not to block out the world, but to protect your clarity within it. Building a fortress mind is an act of discipline. It happens brick by brick. Every time you halt a spiral of self-doubt and choose to refocus, that is a brick. Every time you dismiss a useless comparison before it sours your day, that is a brick. Every time you refuse to feed a baseless fear, you are laying another stone in the wall. This isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about building structure. As Seneca said, no person has the power to have everything they want, but it is in their power not to want what they don't have. That is a fortress mindset, choosing restraint over reaction, inner control over outer chaos. And here is the part most people miss. Not every thought that arises in your mind is actually yours. Some are echoes of your childhood. Some are projections from other people. Some are just static from the culture around you. If you don't slow down to examine them, they will run your life. You will think you are making your own decisions, but you will only be following scripts you never wrote. So how do you begin building this fortress? First, guard the gate. When a thought arrives, challenge it. Ask, is this true? Is this helpful? Is this mine? If the answer is no, you do not have to let it in. Second, curate your counsel. Not every voice deserves a seat at your table. Choose your influences, the books you read, the people you listen to, the content you consume, as carefully as you would choose a guard for your home. And finally, forge your discipline through daily ritual, meditation, journaling, reflection, silence. These are not trends. They are the tools you use to stack the bricks day by day. Life is not going to get quieter. The world will not suddenly become more peaceful or supportive. It will likely get louder. So the question isn't, will I be tested? It is, will I be ready? A fortress mind doesn't mean nothing ever gets to you. It means that when something does get through, you do not fall apart. You pause, you assess, and you respond with strength. And people will notice, not because you are loud, but because you are stable. You become the one who does not panic, who does not gossip, who does not need to prove anything, because you have built something inside that speaks for itself. That kind of presence is built day by day, thought by thought, wall by wall. Law 4. Detach from what you cannot command. It always begins with good intentions. You care about something, a project, a person, a goal, and you want it to go well. But slowly, that care can curdle into attachment. Suddenly, you are no longer just doing your best work. You are tying your self-worth to your boss's praise. You are not just enjoying a relationship. You are depending on it to feel whole. And that is where the foundation begins to crack. Not because caring is wrong, but because attachment erodes the boundary between what you command and what was never truly yours to begin with. The Stoics built their entire philosophy on one critical distinction, which Epictetus stated plainly. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. The only things truly up to us are our responses, our thoughts, our choices, our actions. Everything else, outcomes, opinions, rewards, lies outside of our direct control. And it is our clinging to those external things that causes us the most pain. Think of it like holding a rope. On the other end is something you care about deeply, but it starts to sink, pulling the rope taut. You could let go, but you don't. You tell yourself that letting go means failure, that it means you didn't care enough. So you hold on tighter, your arms burning, your grip weakening, until slowly you are being pulled under by the very thing you are trying to save. That is what unhealthy attachment does. It promises connection, but it delivers chaos. Carl Jung said, "Whatever you are not changing, you are choosing." When you continue to cling to what is clearly hurting you, you are choosing to suffer. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Not apathy, but clarity. Not coldness, but command. Detachment isn't about being numb or distant. It's about separating your peace from the unpredictable. It is the quiet resolve that says, "I will show up. I will give my absolute best, but I will not chain my sense of self to a particular outcome. I will give my full effort, but I will not let my joy depend on what is outside of me." That is not weakness. That is maturity. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing. You can love someone deeply without tying your worth to whether they stay. You can pour your heart into a project without letting failure define your value. You can chase a goal with everything you have and still accept the outcome with grace. This is what the Stoics practiced. Marcus Aurelius led an empire, faced plagues, betrayal, and war, yet he wrote, "You must assemble your life yourself, action by action." He did not wait for fortune to favor him. He acted, detached from praise, detached from fear. In the modern world, this kind of detachment feels almost rebellious. We are told to hustle harder, to care more, to push through everything. We are praised for how much we give, but rarely asked what it costs us. This is why so many burn out, because they are gripping too tightly to things they will never control. Outcomes, approval, the loyalty of others. They live on edge, trying to force stability from things that were never theirs to own. And the more they chase it, the more it slips away. But once you begin to detach, something surprising happens. You start to feel light again, grounded, present. You stop spinning stories about what if and return to what is. You stop chasing people and start attracting peace. So much of our anxiety is wrapped around futures we have invented, results that have not happened, and people who may never change. And still, we cling. When you practice detachment, you stop bleeding energy into things that do not respond to your effort. You begin to focus only on what you can truly shape: your breath, your habits, your attention, your attitude. So, how do you apply this? Start small. When something doesn't go your way, instead of spiraling, ask yourself, was this mine to control? If the answer is no, release it. When someone disappoints you, instead of lashing out, remind yourself, their actions are theirs, my reaction is mine. When you feel anxiety about the future, bring yourself back to the only thing you can actually touch: this moment. Ask, what can I do right now that aligns with my values? That is all you ever need to do. Detachment is a daily practice, not a one-time decision. Some days, letting go will be easy. Other days, it will feel like tearing a piece of yourself away. But the more you practice, the stronger your center becomes. And eventually, you will not need to try to detach. You will simply stop attaching in the first place. You will love without fear, give without expectation, and act without needing recognition. That is when your mind becomes free. And perhaps the most powerful shift is this: once you stop clinging to what you cannot command, you start commanding what you can. Your clarity sharpens, your energy returns, your discipline deepens. You stop chasing peace and start generating it from within. That is what Stoicism was always about. Not indifference, but independence. Not withdrawal, but wisdom. It is the kind of freedom that no person, no loss, and no failure can ever take from you. Law 5. Turn pain into power. No one gets through life without pain. That is not a threat. It is simply the truth. You will be disappointed. You will be rejected. You will fail, and you will be hurt by things that are profoundly unfair. The real question is not if this will happen, but what you will do with it when it does. Most people try to escape pain. They numb it, avoid it, or pretend it never happened. But pain ignored becomes pain recycled. It seeps into your habits, your relationships, your self-talk. You begin to build an identity around wounds you never healed. This is where the Stoic approach flips the script. Instead of running from pain, Stoicism says, face it, study it, use it, make it your fuel, not your prison. The Stoics did not ask for a life without difficulty. They trained to endure it and to use it. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire through war and plague, wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is not just poetry. It is a practical strategy. It means that pain, failure, and setbacks are not detours from the path. They are the path. They are how you grow, how you become sharper, stronger, wiser. But only if you stop treating pain like a curse and start treating it like a teacher. As Carl Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. Discomfort is the doorway to self-awareness. Think about it. When do you grow the most? When everything is easy and perfect, or when something breaks and you are forced to look inward? The breakup that shattered your confidence, the job loss that made you question your worth, the failure that felt like the end of the world. Those moments hurt, but they also hold immense power. They expose what is weak and give you the chance to rebuild with something stronger, something real. But here is the catch. You must choose to use the pain. Pain does not automatically make you stronger. It can break you. It can make you bitter, resentful, and stuck. Or it can forge something new inside of you. The difference is the story you attach to it. Most people suffer and ask, why is this happening to me? The Stoic asks, how can I use this? That one shift changes everything. Let's say you fail at something big. You lose money, you are humiliated, you let people down. You could fall into shame, hide, and let that failure define you. Or you could break it down. Ask, what did this reveal about me? Where was I unprepared? Where was I overconfident? What patterns must I change? When you do that, the failure becomes information. It becomes leverage. It becomes your edge. Seneca said, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. He meant it. Pain, when embraced properly, is the weight that builds your mental muscle. Rejection is another form of power if you stop taking it personally. You didn't fit someone's expectations? Good. Now you have space to build your own. Someone walked away? Good. You were just handed clarity. And clarity is one of the most underrated weapons on the path to personal power. Every no you hear teaches you more about your yes. Every door that closes sharpens your direction. But to use pain this way, you need emotional discipline. You need the ability to sit with discomfort long enough to understand it, without letting it destroy you. This is where the Stoic practice of reflection comes in. Journaling, silence, stillness. When something hurts, do not just react. Observe, write it down, break it apart. What did it touch inside you? What belief did it challenge? What strength did it reveal that you never knew you had? This is not about suppressing pain. It is about metabolizing it, turning it into fuel. Imagine what happens when you start doing this consistently. When your default response to a setback is not panic or self-pity, but analysis and action. You lose, and instead of collapsing, you lean in. You are criticized, and instead of taking it as a wound, you take it as feedback. You get knocked down, and instead of asking, "Why me?" you say, "Watch me." That is what power looks like. Quiet, resilient, relentless. The Stoics were not perfect. They felt pain like the rest of us. But what made them rare is that they refused to waste it. They treated life like a forge, and everything that hurt them became a flame. Every scar became a lesson. Every bruise became proof they were still standing. That mindset is not just ancient wisdom. It is a weapon you can carry every single day. So, whatever pain you are carrying right now, do not bury it. Do not wish it away. Study it. Sharpen it. Use it. Ask yourself, how can this make me wiser? How can this make me stronger? How can this become my advantage instead of my excuse? Because here is the final truth. You do not become powerful by avoiding storms. You become powerful by becoming the storm. You become the force that grows in difficulty, that learns in failure, that sharpens in darkness. You do not wait for things to get easier. You get tougher. You do not wait for the world to hand you peace. You earn it, brick by brick, through every hardship you endure. Law 6. Let silence be your superpower. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing. Not out of fear, not because you are unsure, but because you have learned the difference between expression and exposure. We live in an age where everyone is expected to have an opinion about everything, to post it, share it, shout it, vent it. But here is the truth no one admits. The more you speak your weakness out loud, the more you reinforce it. That moment when you say, "I'm just so anxious," or "I feel like I'm not enough," might offer a fleeting sense of relief. But often, what you are really doing is carving those words deeper into your identity. The Stoics understood this long before our culture of oversharing. They did not suppress their emotions, they contained them. They did not fake strength, they cultivated silence as a form of power. Negative thoughts thrive on volume. The louder you speak them, the more they echo, and the more they echo, the more real they feel. Have you ever noticed how saying something out loud can suddenly make it feel heavier, more dramatic? That is because you are no longer just thinking it, you are performing it. You are handing it shape, voice, and meaning, and your brain is listening. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind." Now, add speech to that mix and the effect multiplies. This is why the Stoics were so careful with their words. They understood something we have largely forgotten. Your words shape your world. Silence forces introspection. It makes you sit with discomfort instead of outsourcing it through noise. And in that discomfort, transformation happens. Silence does not mean you are disconnected. It means you are deliberate. It means you are choosing when and how to use your energy. Because every time you explain yourself, justify your emotions, or vent about things you cannot control, you are giving your power away. You are handing out pieces of your clarity to people who may not even understand your world. The Stoics did not play that game. They chose stillness over noise. They trained themselves not to respond to every provocation, not to explain their every strategy, not to argue with people committed to misunderstanding them. Instead, they let their actions speak. As Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Think of how much energy is wasted explaining things that need no explanation, sharing thoughts that need no voice, and chasing validation that will not make you stronger. Silence is not about being mysterious. It is about protecting your focus. It is about refusing to hand your blueprint to people who have not earned it. It is about giving your words weight, so that when you do speak, it matters. Silence also trains emotional control. When you resist the urge to vent or complain, you are not bottling your emotions. You are learning to hold them, to study them, to master them. You are learning not to be impulsive. Over time, this builds an inner discipline that no external praise can match. When life pushes you, you no longer flinch. You no longer need to prove anything. You become calm, steady, unreadable. That is a rare kind of power. People will misunderstand your silence. They may call you distant, cold, or detached. Let them. That is part of the practice. When you are quiet, people project. They wonder what you are thinking. They try to guess your next move. And this gives you a strategic advantage, not because you are manipulating anyone, but because clarity loves stillness, and confusion often defeats itself. You have heard the saying, "Do not speak unless you can improve the silence." That is not just a poetic line, it is a Stoic principle in action. Before you speak, ask, is this necessary? Is this useful? Does this reflect the person I want to be? If the answer is no, say nothing. Let your silence be a filter. The fewer words you use, the more intentional you become with the ones you choose. And when your words are rare, they hit harder. They echo longer. Aristotle once said, "Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools because they have to say something." The Stoic does not need to announce their thoughts to prove they have had them. They move with presence, speak with intention, and keep their internal world sacred. How do you begin? Practice restraint. When you feel the urge to immediately vent, pause. When someone insults or triggers you, pause. When you are unsure what to say, pause. In those pauses, you will feel something new, control. And that control is the soil where confidence grows. It is the space where clarity enters. It is the moment where reaction ends and response begins. This is not about being silent forever. It is about learning the value of silence, so that when you speak, it comes from strength, not insecurity. It comes because you have thought it through, because it adds value, because it aligns with your principles. And when you live like that, people feel your presence, even when you say nothing at all. Law 7. Rewrite the story you live under. Every single morning, whether you realize it or not, you wake up inside a story. It is not one written by fate or forced by circumstance, but one written by you. It is the way you think about yourself, the deep beliefs you carry about who you are, what you are worth, and what you are capable of. This story does not always speak loudly. Sometimes it whispers, "I am not good enough." Other times it shouts, "This always happens to me." And for years we accept these lines as truth. But they are not truth. They are habits. Mental scripts repeated so often they have begun to feel real. The truth is, you can change the story. And when you do, everything changes with it. The Stoics understood this profoundly. They knew the mind could be your strongest ally or your greatest enemy, depending on what you allowed it to repeat. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If you constantly feed your mind the language of limitation, fear, and self-doubt, your identity slowly takes on that color. You start to live like a person who cannot change, cannot grow, cannot rise. But if you change the language, if you rewrite the narrative, you start to live like someone who can. And that is where power begins. Let's make this simple. Your brain believes what it hears the most. That includes what it hears from you. If you keep saying, "I'm not a confident person," or "I always mess things up," your mind will build behaviors to match those beliefs. It does not question you. It follows you. What you do is shaped by what you believe. So if your beliefs are rooted in weakness, even your strongest actions will feel like you are fighting against yourself. Ask yourself, where did your current story come from? Who wrote the script you are living by? Was it a teacher who said you were not smart enough? A parent who did not believe in you? A failure so profound you started to think it defined you? None of those things get to hold the pen anymore. Not unless you let them. You are not obligated to live under a story written from someone else's fear, someone else's misunderstanding, or even your own past mistakes. That story can be changed. Rewriting your story does not mean lying to yourself. It means choosing a frame that strengthens you instead of weakening you. The Stoics never said to ignore fear. They simply refused to let it control the narrative. Instead of saying, "I am afraid, so I will avoid this," they said, "Fear is a signal. It means I am stepping into something meaningful." Instead of saying, "This is unfair," they said, "This is a chance to practice endurance." This shift in language is not just poetic, it is practical. It moves you from victim to author, from passive to powerful. This is about becoming accurate, because most of your negative self-talk is not just unhelpful, it is inaccurate. You are not lazy, you are overwhelmed and unclear. You are not weak, you are untrained. You are not a failure, you are in the middle of learning. Plato said, "The beginning is the most important part of the work." The beginning of every transformation is the story you choose to tell yourself when no one is watching. So how do you rewrite it? Start by catching the default phrases you use when you are stressed or filled with doubt. "I always do this." "I knew I would mess it up." "Of course this happened to me." Those are not just thoughts, they are scripts, and they are shaping your entire way of being. Begin replacing them, not with fake positivity, but with grounded strength. Instead of, "I am anxious," say, "I am alert and preparing." Instead of, "I am not ready," say, "I am becoming the kind of person who can handle this." Instead of, "I always mess up," say, "I am still learning and I am improving." Seneca wrote, "We become brave by doing brave acts." That includes the brave act of rewriting your own internal dialogue. You do not need permission. You do not need anyone else to validate your new narrative. You only need to begin. You must do more than simply think a new story. You must live it into existence. The more you embody it, the more your actions will align, for your mind is a constant audience, and you are giving it a better script to believe in. Understand, however, that rewriting your story is not a singular act of defiance. It is a quiet, daily ritual. With every challenge, you will feel the gravitational pull of your old identity, the familiar whisper that says, "See, you still don't have what it takes." In that moment, you do not argue. You simply respond with the new narrative. "That is what I used to believe. It is not what I believe anymore." This is how an identity truly shifts, not through the brute force of will, but through the gentle insistence of repetition, patience, and persistence. Over time, this new story ceases to be a story. It becomes your truth. You begin to move through the world as one who trusts their own judgment, who speaks with quiet intention, who views setbacks not as evidence of failure, but as opportunities for refinement. This story need not be a grand epic. It need only be yours, rooted in awareness, written with strength, and carried forward with discipline. You are not defined by what has happened to you. You are defined by what you choose to do next. The script in your mind is not etched in stone. It is written in chalk, and in this very moment you hold the eraser. Use it. Not because your past was wrong, but because your future deserves a better narrator. The world will relentlessly try to shake you with its noise, its fear, and its doubt. Yet the power to stand still amidst the storm, to think with clarity and to act with purpose, that power has always been yours. You do not need to control the world around you. You only need to command the world within. And when you do, nothing can disturb your peace. Continue to sharpen your mind by exploring one of the suggested videos on your screen. And thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal, where strength begins in silence.